In this video, I want to demonstrate how to create an appearance texture that goes from a blue to a red color, representing from a cold temperature to a hot temperature. So let's see how to set this up. So the first thing I'll do is search for an appropriate color gradient, or you could make this yourself if you have some photo editing software. So I'll download one of these images and I'll use that image. So I find an image that I like, and let's make this a little bit bigger so I can look at it. I've got this in Paint. And I see that there's a watermark up here, probably a copyright, but I can't really read it. Now, I'm going to get rid of that portion. It isn't apparent if this is a copyright or not. I can't really read it. You should not use copyright images in your work. So I can't really read that as a copyright, so I'm going to crop that away. So I will select from here down to here, and I'll select crop, and so I got rid of that. And actually there's a little bit in here and here. I think I want to crop this again, so I'm going to crop this down to here, and I'll save this image. First, I'm going to practice on this little piece of cylinder, and as I'm doing this, I want to have the visual style in realistic, and then I'm going to go to the appearances, and actually let's just right click on this, and I'll go to properties. And right now I see that it's just set as feature. I've created a folder with a library for my custom appearances, and so I'll click up here on Appearance Browser, and I'm going to expand this, and I don't see it here in my list, and so I'm going to come down here and I'll click here and say I want to open an existing library. Now, if you haven't created one yet, you would need to go ahead and create a new library. When you create that library, you can also create categories within that library. So I've already created one, so I'm going to say open an existing library. I'll select that library and open it. And then I'm going to go to the default appearance. Now I've already run through this once. I'm going to delete this and I will create a new appearance. So I'll duplicate this appearance, and I'm going to call this temperature gradient. And actually, let's call this, well, I'll go ahead, gradient, and then we're going to do a revision 1 after this. Alright, so I've given it a name, and then I'm going to tell it I want to edit that appearance. Now, in earlier versions of Inventor, this screen might look slightly different, but the process is basically the same. So I'll click on the edit pencil, and I'm going to then click here. Now it isn't obvious that you can select here to place an image, so I'll click here to place an image, and I'll get that image that I downloaded off of the internet, and then I'm going to go ahead and say OK to this the way it is. Alright, I'm going to apply that appearance to this face. So I'll right click on that face, and I'll go to properties, and I want to get that temperature gradient as the appearance on this face. Now when I see this, the red and the blue are going along the axis of this, and I want it to be red at one end and blue at the other end, so I'll need to change that. So again, make sure that you are in realistic view when you start to do this, and I like to put this over here where I can have some room to see this, and then I will come up here and I'll click on the appearance editor again, and I'll select that appearance and I'll select edit, and then I'm going to click on this image, and I'm going to then rotate this 90 degrees. So let's find the rotation, and there's a slider here. You can just drag this slider and see how it's going to affect that image. And so I want this to be 90 degrees. And then I'm going to turn off the tiling. Now I might turn this back on again. So if this part is really long, it may tile or repeat that image over and over again. For now, I'll put none on this one. Now I see that I do need for it to tile to the other side. Let's say none on this one. And so I need to turn the tiling back on to the other side so that it tiles in the other direction. Alright, so now we see that it's blue going all the way around. And then I need to experiment with the size and the offset. Let's try with the offset first. Now I'm going to go in the X, and then I might change to the negative X direction. And I'm going to click here for these two numbers to change together, although for our purposes on this one it doesn't really matter. So on the X direction I'm going to go 100, and I'll press enter or tab, and I see that it goes off of the part, so I'll try minus 100, and so I see that it's going to the other end of this part. I can just see a little bit of red at this end. So down here for my sample size, I'm going to change this to 100. And so now I see that it's red here, and the blue went off the end here. So let's change this to minus 50. And actually I might just put that back on 0. And so I'll try the minus 50 then. Okay, so I see some blue, and then I just see a bit of red. I'm going to change this. Let's do this as 50. Now you can do some measurements and try to base this on the measurement of your object. I tend to just do it by trial and error. And so let's put this on minus 25. We're going to move it back in this direction towards this end, minus 20, or a little bit less. And so I see now I have some blue and some red here. And let's change this number a lot smaller. Let's say 10 on this. And I see that I've shortened that image up. Let's move it back this way some. Let's say minus 20. And I see that it comes off of the end of that, so I want that back to where I had it. And I think it was minus 30. And actually I went too far. Let's do minus 25. Okay, and then I'm going to stretch this out again, and so I'll do 20, and so we need to get it out here to the end, and so let's do 40, and we just keep on by trial and error get it to the length that we have. Now right now I'm in metric units. Alright, so I have my gradient then from blue to the purplish into the red. So let's look at how to do this on our actual part.